What if the secret to becoming truly captivating lies not in closeness, but in the delicate art of maintaining distance? Welcome to Stoic Reflections, where we delve into the profound wisdom of Stoicism to uncover life's hidden truths. In today's exploration, we unravel the enigmatic power of distance not as a barrier, but as a bridge to personal freedom, self-respect, and effortless charisma. Drawing from the timeless teachings of Marcus Aurelius and the Stoic tradition, this video will guide you through the philosophy of preserving your individuality while fostering meaningful relationships. Why does distance hold such transformative potential? Because it allows you to cultivate an unshakable sense of self, radiating a magnetic allure that draws others in without ever compromising your essence. Throughout this journey, we'll explore why keeping a respectful space in relationships fosters independence, deepens mutual respect, and sparks natural attraction. We'll also dive into practical ways to create this balance without alienating those you care about, ensuring your connections remain vibrant and fulfilling. At Stoic Reflections, we believe philosophy isn't just about ideas, it's about living them. That's why we invite you to engage with us on this path of wisdom. Share your thoughts in the comments below. How do you maintain space in your relationships? What challenges do you face in asserting your independence? Your insights not only enrich our community, but also inspire us to create content that resonates with your experiences. If this exploration speaks to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. We're aiming for 100,000 subscribers, and every step forward brings us closer to that milestone. We also encourage you to suggest topics for future videos. Whether it's diving deeper into Marcus Aurelius' meditations or exploring Nietzsche's provocative ideas, let us know what sparks your curiosity. Together, let's embrace the Stoic art of living, wisely starting with the subtle power of distance. Join us as we embark on this reflective journey and discover how a simple shift in perspective can transform not just your relationships, but your entire way of being. Part 1. The importance of distance in relationships. The notion that love demands constant proximity is a pervasive one, yet it often leads us astray. How many times have you found yourself entangled in a relationship, be it romantic, familial, or platonic, where closeness, while comforting at first, slowly morphed into a suffocating weight? The Stoics, with their emphasis on self-mastery and resilience, teach us that true connection does not thrive on ceaseless togetherness, but on a thoughtful balance of presence and space. Marcus Aurelius once remarked, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This strength lies in preserving your autonomy, even amid the most intimate bonds. When we immerse ourselves too deeply in another's world, we risk losing sight of our own. The endless hours spent in someone's company, while initially pleasurable, can erode the boundaries that define who we are. Have you ever felt the exhaustion that creeps in when you've given too much of yourself, leaving little time for your own thoughts, passions, or growth? This exhaustion signals a need for distance, not as a rejection of the other, but as a reckoning of the self. Distance, in this sense, is not about detachment or coldness. It is the art of creating space for personal growth while remaining connected. Imagine a relationship where both parties are free to pursue their individual paths, returning to one another not out of necessity, but out of genuine desire. Such a dynamic fosters mutual respect, for it acknowledges that each person is a whole, not a fragment reliant on the other for completion. Too often, we equate love with sacrifice, believing that to love is to surrender our individuality entirely. But the Stoics would argue otherwise. Epictetus reminds us, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In relationships, this means maintaining a clear sense of self, resisting the urge to dissolve into the other's identity. When we fail to uphold this boundary, we may find ourselves resenting the very closeness we sought, as it stifles our freedom and dims our inner light. Consider the moments when you've felt overwhelmed by another's constant presence. Perhaps you've noticed how the lack of solitude drains your energy, leaving you irritable or disconnected. These feelings arise not from a lack of affection, but from an imbalance, a failure to honor your need for space. The Stoic perspective invites us to see distance as a tool for balance, a means of ensuring that our relationships enhance rather than diminish our sense of self. By stepping back, we allow ourselves to breathe, to reflect, and to cultivate the inner tranquility that makes us better partners, friends, and companions. This tranquility is no small gift. It is the foundation of a life lived deliberately, in accordance with our deepest values. Moreover, distance in relationships guards against the perils of overdependence. When we cling too tightly to another, we risk placing our happiness in their hands, a precarious position that leaves us vulnerable to their whims. The Stoics caution against such reliance, urging us instead to find contentment within ourselves. Seneca wrote, "If you wish to be loved, love. But this love must begin with self-love, nurtured through the independence that distance affords." When we maintain our own space, we signal to others and to ourselves that our worth does not hinge on their approval. This self-assertion is far from driving others away, often deepens their admiration for us, as it reflects a quiet confidence that is both rare and compelling. Part 2. Distance as a source of natural attraction. Have you ever noticed how the most magnetic individuals often seem just out of reach? There is an allure to those who maintain a subtle distance, a mystique that beckons us closer without ever fully revealing itself. This phenomenon, far from accidental, is deeply rooted in human psychology and aligns with Stoic principles of self-sufficiency. When we refrain from being overly available, we create a space for curiosity and desire to flourish. The Stoics understood this intuitively, advocating for a life of restraint and dignity that naturally draws others in. As Marcus Aurelius reflected, accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. This love, however, does not demand constant proximity. It thrives in the spaces between, where longing and appreciation can grow. The allure of distance lies in its ability to preserve an air of mystery. When we are always present, always accessible, we leave little for the imagination to explore. But by stepping back, we invite others to wonder about us, to seek us out not out of obligation but out of genuine interest. This dynamic mirrors the Stoic emphasis on inner freedom. When we are not beholden to others' expectations, we exude a confidence that is inherently attractive. Consider the difference between a friend who is perpetually at your side and one who appears only occasionally, each encounter marked by depth and meaning. The latter often leaves a stronger impression, precisely because their absence heightens their presence. This is the paradox of attraction. What is scarce often feels more valuable. Yet this attraction is not merely superficial, it is rooted in the respect that distance cultivates. When we maintain our own space, we demonstrate a reverence for our individuality, signaling to others that we are not easily swayed or subsumed. This steadfastness commands admiration, as it reflects a life lived with intention rather than reactivity. Epictetus taught that freedom is the only worthy goal in life, and in relationships, this freedom manifests as the ability to stand apart without fear of loss. Those who embody this principle often find that their independence inspires others to pursue them, not out of need but out of a desire to share in their unshakable serenity. Furthermore, distance prevents the erosion of respect that can accompany excessive familiarity. When two people are constantly in each other's orbit, the boundaries between them begin to blur, and with them, the mutual regard that sustains a healthy relationship. By contrast, maintaining a measured separation allows each person to retain their distinctiveness, fostering a connection built on appreciation rather than obligation. The Stoics viewed such balance as essential to living virtuously, for it ensures that our interactions are guided by reason rather than unchecked emotion. In this way, distance becomes not a hindrance but a catalyst for deeper, more meaningful bonds. Part 3. How to maintain distance without harm. The concept of distance may seem at odds with the idea of closeness, yet in practice, it is a vital component of any enduring relationship. The Stoics, with their focus on rationality and self-control, offer valuable insights into how we might achieve this balance. The first step lies in self-awareness and understanding of our own needs and boundaries. Too often, we neglect this introspection, allowing ourselves to be swept along by the currents of others' desires. But as Seneca cautioned, if a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. In relationships, this port is our sense of self, and maintaining distance ensures we do not lose sight of it. Communication is key to practicing distance without causing misunderstanding. Rather than withdrawing silently, which can breed resentment, we must articulate our need for space with clarity and kindness. Imagine telling a loved one, "I cherish our time together, but I also need moments alone to recharge." Such honesty not only preserves trust but also invites reciprocal respect. The Stoics valued straightforwardness in all things, and in relationships, this principle holds true. By expressing our boundaries openly, we create a foundation for mutual understanding, ensuring that distance strengthens rather than strains our bonds. Equally important is the recognition of difference, the acknowledgement that each person in a relationship has their own needs, interests, and rhythms. The Stoics taught that true wisdom lies in accepting what we cannot change, and in relationships, this means honoring the individuality of those we care about. When we respect their space as we do our own, we foster a dynamic where both parties feel free to grow without fear of encroachment. This mutual respect transforms distance from a potential source of conflict into a shared value, one that enriches the relationship rather than diminishing it. Finally, maintaining distance allows us to cultivate an independent life, one not wholly reliant on the presence or approval of others. The Stoics prized self-sufficiency as a cornerstone of happiness, and in relationships, this translates to finding joy within ourselves rather than seeking it solely from those around us. When we nurture our own passions, pursue our own goals, and cherish our own solitude, we bring a fuller, more vibrant self to our interactions. This richness not only enhances our relationships, but also ensures their longevity, for it guards against the burnout that so often accompanies codependence. Part 4. The long-term benefits of distance. The benefits of maintaining distance extend far beyond the immediate dynamics of a relationship. They ripple outward, shaping our lives in profound and lasting ways. At its core, distance is a practice of self-preservation, a means of safeguarding the independence that the Stoics held dear. When we carve out space for ourselves, we create opportunities for growth, reflection, and renewal. These moments of solitude are not empty but rich with possibility. They allow us to reconnect with our deepest aspirations, to rediscover the dreams we may have set aside in the rush of daily life. One of the most enduring gifts of distance is the respect it fosters within relationships. A bond built on mutual space is one where both parties feel seen and valued as individuals, not merely as extensions of one another. This respect forms the bedrock of trust, enabling a connection that withstands the test of time. The Stoics believed that true virtue lies in treating others with dignity, and in relationships, this means honoring their need for freedom as we do our own. When we practice distance thoughtfully, we cultivate a love that is not possessive but expansive, one that grows stronger through its very openness. Distance also enhances our capacity for meaningful communication. When we are not perpetually entwined with another, we gain the clarity to reflect on our emotions and articulate them with greater precision. This reflective pause prevents the misunderstandings that so often arise in the heat of constant interaction, fostering a dialogue that is honest and considered. The Stoics understood the power of words to shape our reality, and in relationships, this power is magnified. By maintaining distance, we ensure that our exchanges are rooted in authenticity rather than obligation, deepening our connection in ways that proximity alone cannot achieve. Perhaps most intriguingly, distance sustains attraction over the long term. The Stoics may not have spoken explicitly of charisma, but their emphasis on self-mastery points to a similar truth, that allure often stems from what is withheld as much as what is given. When we are not always present, we allow others the space to miss us, to reflect on our value in their lives. This absence, far from diminishing affection, heightens it, creating a rhythm of longing and reunion that keeps a relationship vibrant. In this way, distance becomes a delicate interplay of closeness and separation that keeps the flame of attraction burning bright. In the intricate dance of human connection, distance emerges not as a barrier, but as a profound act of wisdom, a principle that the Stoics would surely champion. Through this exploration on Stoic reflections, we've uncovered how maintaining space allows us to preserve our individuality, foster mutual respect, and cultivate a natural charisma that draws others toward us. Far from isolating us, distance enriches our relationships, grounding them in freedom rather than dependence. It reminds us that true attraction stems not from constant presence, but from the quiet confidence of a life lived authentically. We invite you to reflect on this journey and share your thoughts below. How has distance shaped your relationships? What strategies have you found effective in balancing closeness with independence? Your insights fuel the conversations here at Stoic Reflections, and we're eager to hear your voice. If this exploration resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe to join our growing community as we aim for 100,000 subscribers. Your support helps us continue delving into the timeless wisdom of Stoicism and beyond. Before we part, we have a special treat. Stay tuned for a discussion featuring our guests, Liam and Charlotte, who will share their own perspectives on the art of distance and its role in their lives. Their stories promise to add new depth to this topic, and we can't wait to explore their insights together. Until next time, may you find strength in your own space, and may it guide you toward relationships that are as free as they are enduring. Thank you for joining us on Stoic Reflections. See you in the next video.
All right, so today we're diving into something pretty fascinating, I think. It's called The Stoic Art of Distance.
Interesting title.
Yeah, it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's not about, becoming a hermit or ignoring the people that we love.
Right.
We're going to be looking at an excerpt today from The Stoic Art of Distance, Charisma, Freedom, and Relationships.
Okay.
So we're going to kind of dig into this and see what we can find, see what wisdom we can unearth from this.
Yeah. What's really intriguing to me about this whole concept is that it kind of challenges this modern emphasis on constant connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're always, bombarded with messages about staying connected, 24/7.
Right.
But this excerpt suggests that, maybe a little space could actually be the key to stronger, healthier relationships.
Yeah, that's what I thought was so interesting about it, too, is kind of counterintuitive, Like the idea that distance can actually lead to more freedom, self-respect, and even charisma. How does that work?
Right.
That's worth exploring.
Absolutely. And, this all starts with understanding a core tenet of Stoicism, and that's self-mastery.
Okay.
The Stoics believed that true strength really lies in controlling your reactions.
Yeah.
Not being controlled by your emotions.
Okay.
And that this idea of distance is, plays a crucial role in that.
So it's not about pushing people away. It's about building that inner strength.
Right.
And resilience. So you're not relying on other people for your happiness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The excerpt actually uses this really powerful metaphor, and that is, constant togetherness can be like crowding a plant's roots.
Huh.
It might seem counterintuitive, but sometimes you need space to really flourish.
Okay, so that makes sense for individual growth,
Mm-hmm.
but how does distance actually strengthen a relationship? That's the part I'm not really getting yet.
Well, think about it this way. When you have your own space, You have your own pursuits, your own sense of self. You actually bring more to the table in a relationship. You're not looking to someone else to complete you.
Okay.
You're already complete on your own.
So instead of like two halves trying to make a whole, you have two whole people choosing to share their lives.
Exactly. And that wholeness, that self-assuredness, it's actually what makes you more attractive to others.
Oh, okay.
The excerpt really dives into the psychology behind this.
Okay.
It's about the allure of mystery, leaving something to the imagination.
Okay. That makes sense, I guess. But isn't there a risk of coming across as like cold or distant?
Sure.
Like how do you balance that need for space with actually, maintaining a connection with someone?
Well, that's where communication becomes essential.
Okay.
The excerpt really emphasizes that distance isn't about, shutting people out.
Okay.
It's about setting healthy boundaries and, communicating your needs clearly and respectfully.
So instead of like ghosting someone, you might say something like, hey, I really value our time together, but I also need some solo time to recharge or pursue my own interests.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about honesty and transparency.
Okay.
And also understanding that, everyone has their own rhythms and their own needs.
Right.
You don't have to be in sync all the time to have a strong relationship.
Yeah.
In fact, acknowledging those differences can actually build more respect and understanding.
This is making me think about those relationships where you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells,
Mm-hmm.
afraid to kind of rock the boat or whatever.
Sure.
And maybe a little stoic distance could actually create more breathing room for authenticity.
That's a really insightful observation. And it really ties into what the excerpt says about, distance fostering greater self-respect.
Yeah.
When you honor your own needs and you set boundaries, you're essentially teaching others how to treat you.
Okay, I'm starting to get this now.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get practical.
Okay.
What are some concrete ways that we can integrate this stoic art of distance into our lives without sending the wrong signal? Like how much distance is too much?
That's a great question, and it's one that the excerpt, provides some valuable insights on.
Okay.
It's not about, creating a rigid set of rules.
Right.
But it's about finding what works for you and the specific relationships in your life.
Okay, so let's dive into some of those practical strategies then.
Okay.
What are some things that people can start doing today to, incorporate a little stoic distance without causing unnecessary friction?
Well, one of the simplest yet most powerful things you can do is to cultivate an independent life.
Okay.
One that's not solely reliant on the presence or the approval of others.
Right.
So, think about it. What are those activities, hobbies, pursuits that really light you up, that make you feel alive and engaged?
This is making me think about all the things I've put on the back burner because I was so focused on other people's needs and expectations. It's almost like I forgot how to nurture my own interests.
That's a really common experience. And it highlights why this concept of distance is so important.
Yeah.
It's not selfish to prioritize your own growth and well-being.
Okay.
In fact, it's the foundation for healthy and fulfilling relationships.
Okay.
When you're happy and fulfilled as an individual, you bring so much more to the table in your interactions with others.
So instead of expecting your partner or your friends to be like the sole source of your happiness, you're finding joy and fulfillment in your own pursuits.
Exactly. And that's incredibly attractive.
Okay.
Think about it. Wouldn't you be more drawn to someone who has their own passions?
Yeah?
Their own interests?
Yeah.
Their own sense of self?
Absolutely.
Someone who isn't looking to you to fill a void in their life?
But wouldn't this lead to people drifting apart? Like, how do you balance cultivating an independent life with, maintaining closeness and connection?
Well, that's where the art of distance comes in.
Okay.
It's about finding that delicate balance between honoring your own needs and nurturing the relationship.
Okay.
And, as we delve deeper into this excerpt, we'll uncover some specific strategies for doing just that.
This is already shifting my perspective. I love how this deep dive is challenging those conventional notions about relationships and opening up like a whole new way of thinking about connection.
Right.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
One thing that really struck me about this excerpt is it kind of connects this idea of distance to the Stoic concept of living in accordance with nature.
Oh, okay. I'm interested. How does that tie in?
Well, the Stoics, they believed that everything in the universe, has its own natural rhythm and order.
Right.
And that includes human relationships.
Okay.
They saw forcing constant closeness
Right.
as like a kind of resistance to this natural flow.
So instead of trying to like control someone or cling to them,
Right.
we should embrace those natural ebbs and flows of connection.
Exactly. And that could be, a really liberating kind of perspective shift.
Okay.
It takes the pressure off of trying to maintain like a certain level of intensity or togetherness all the time.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like trying to force a flower to bloom, year round.
Yeah.
It goes against its natural cycle.
Exactly. And just as a flower needs, periods of dormancy to regenerate and, bloom again,
Mm-hmm.
relationships also benefit from these periods of stoic distance.
I'm starting to see how this concept could actually help prevent, those feelings of burnout or resentment that can build up in relationships, where you feel like you're constantly giving and giving without getting anything back.
That's a really insightful point. The excerpt talks about how distance allows us to kind of replenish our own energy reserves
Right.
so that we can show up in our relationships from a place of abundance rather than scarcity.
So it's not about becoming like emotionally detached
Right.
or withdrawing completely. It's about making sure that we're taking care of our own needs so we can actually truly be present for other people.
Exactly. It's like the oxygen mask on an airplane.
Oh, yeah.
You have to put your own on first before you can help anyone else.
That's a great analogy. So how does this idea of distance actually like play out in real life relationships?
Yeah.
Like what are some practical ways that we can create that space without damaging the connection?
The excerpt really emphasizes the importance of setting boundaries.
Okay.
And that doesn't have to be, a confrontational or dramatic thing.
Right.
It's simply about communicating your needs
Yeah.
clearly and respectfully.
So for example, if you're feeling overwhelmed by your partner's like constant need for attention, you might say something like, hey, I love spending time with you, but I also need some time to myself to recharge.
Yeah.
Can we carve out some time, each week for me to pursue my own hobbies or whatever?
Exactly. And the key is to do this, from a place of love and respect,
Okay.
not blame or resentment.
Right.
It's not about, accusing the other person of being too needy.
Right.
It's about owning your own needs and asking for what you need to feel balanced and fulfilled.
This is reminding me of a time when I was feeling really suffocated in a relationship.
And I was so afraid of hurting the other person's feelings that I didn't set any boundaries. And eventually it led to a lot of resentment and frustration on both sides.
That's a common experience, and it highlights why, setting boundaries is so crucial for healthy relationships.
Okay.
When you stifle your own needs for the sake of keeping the peace,
Right.
you're essentially creating like a ticking time bomb.
Right.
Eventually, those unexpressed needs are going to surface, and often in unhealthy ways.
So how can we get better at recognizing our own boundaries and communicating them effectively?
The excerpt suggests that it starts with self-awareness.
Okay.
Take some time to reflect on what truly energizes you and what drains you.
Okay.
What are those activities or interactions that leave you feeling depleted and resentful?
Yeah.
And conversely, what are those things that really fill your cup and make you feel alive?
So it's about like tuning into those subtle cues from our own bodies and emotions.
Exactly. Our bodies are incredibly wise.
And they're constantly sending us signals about what we need. It's just a matter of paying attention and learning to decipher those messages.
That makes sense. But what about those times when our need for space clashes with our partner's need for connection? Like, how do we navigate those situations without creating conflict?
That's where clear and compassionate communication becomes essential.
Okay.
The excerpt talks about the importance of explaining your needs in a way that doesn't make the other person feel rejected or abandoned.
So instead of just saying, like, I need some space,
Right.
you might say something like, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed right now. I need some time to myself to recharge, but I'd love to reconnect with you tomorrow evening and hear all about your day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about acknowledging the other person's needs while also honoring your own.
Okay.
And remember, it's okay to have different needs and rhythms in a relationship.
Right.
That doesn't mean you're incompatible.
Right.
It just means that you need to find ways to compromise and support each other's individual needs.
This whole idea of embracing distance as a way to enhance intimacy is really mind-bending.
Yeah.
It goes against everything we've been taught about relationships.
It's a paradigm shift for sure.
Ah.
But when you really think about it, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
When you're secure in your own space, you can approach relationships from a place of wholeness and generosity. You're not clinging to the other person for validation or fulfillment.
Right.
You're choosing to share your life with them.
And that freedom, that sense of self-assuredness is ultimately what makes you more attractive and magnetic.
Precisely. It's about embracing the paradox of distance. The idea that by stepping back, you actually create a stronger, more sustainable connection.
This is all starting to click for me, but I'm curious to hear more about the long-term benefits of embracing this Stoic art of distance. What happens when we consistently prioritize our own space and needs within our relationships? What does that look like in practice?
That's a great question, and one that the excerpt, dives into in some detail. It talks about how distance can actually lead to greater self-respect, clearer communication, and even sustained attraction over time.
Okay, let's unpack that. How does distance foster self-respect?
Well, think about it this way. When you consistently honor your own boundaries and needs, you're sending a powerful message to yourself and others that you are worthy of respect. It's not about being selfish or demanding.
Okay.
It's about recognizing your inherent value and treating yourself accordingly.
And that self-respect kind of radiates outward, influencing how other people perceive and treat you.
Exactly. It's like a ripple effect.
Yeah.
When you value yourself, others are more likely to value you as well.
I love how this concept challenges the idea that you have to constantly be giving to others to be worthy of love and respect. It's almost like the more you give yourself permission to step back and take care of your own needs, the more you have to offer in your relationships.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about shifting from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance. When you're operating from a place of fullness, you can give freely and generously without feeling depleted or resentful.
This is making me think about those relationships where there's a constant power struggle, where one person is always trying to control or manipulate the other.
Right.
It seems like embracing this Stoic art of distance could be like a powerful antidote to that dynamic.
Absolutely. When you're secure in your own space, you're less likely to get caught up in those unhealthy power dynamics.
Okay.
You don't need to control the other person to feel safe or validated.
This is so empowering. It's like we're reclaiming our own power and agency within our relationship.
Exactly. It's about creating relationships that are built on, mutual respect, trust, and a deep understanding of each other's individual needs.
Okay.
And sometimes the best way to cultivate that kind of connection is to create a little space for each person to, breathe and grow.
Okay, so we've talked about how distance can foster self-respect. What about the excerpt's claim that it can actually enhance communication? That seems counterintuitive. Wouldn't less communication lead to less connection?
Not necessarily. Think about it this way. When you're constantly enmeshed with another person,
Right.
it can be hard to even hear your own thoughts and feelings. You might be so focused on, pleasing the other person or avoiding conflict
Right.
that you lose touch with your own authentic voice.
Yeah. So distance allows you to step back from that emotional intensity and kind of gain some clarity.
Exactly. It gives you the space to reflect on your own experiences and kind of formulate your thoughts in a more coherent way. And then when you come back to the conversation from that place of, centeredness,
Right. Yeah.
you're able to communicate with greater clarity and intention.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like taking a break from a heated argument to cool down and gather your thoughts.
Right.
You're less likely to say something you'll regret.
Right.
And you're more likely to express yourself in a way that the other person can actually hear.
Precisely. And the excerpt even suggests that this distance can help prevent resentment from building up in relationships.
Okay. I can see how taking space to process your own emotions could prevent resentment from festering. But how does distance prevent resentment from cropping up in the first place?
Well, when you're constantly giving and giving without taking time for yourself, it's easy to start feeling, depleted and resentful.
Yeah.
Distance allows you to replenish your own energy reserves so that you can show up for your loved ones, from a place of abundance rather than scarcity.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together. Distance isn't about creating separation or emotional detachment. It's about creating the space for each person to thrive as an individual.
Right.
So they can bring their best selves to the relationship.
Exactly. And as we delve deeper into this excerpt, we'll explore, some of the more nuanced aspects of this Stoic art of distance,
Okay.
including how it can actually enhance attraction and create a more sustainable foundation for love and intimacy.
I'm hooked. Let's dive into those fascinating aspects right after a quick break.
All right, so we're back. And, one of the things that I found most intriguing about this whole Stoic art of distance is this idea that it can actually make you more attractive.
Right.
I mean, isn't constant attention what's supposed to keep someone interested?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Totally.
But this excerpt really dives into the psychology behind it.
Okay.
And it's fascinating stuff.
Okay, I'm ready. Lay it on me.
Right, so it's not about playing games or like manipulating anyone.
Okay.
But it's about understanding the power of space and independence, in sparking desire.
So what's the secret? What's the secret sauce here?
Well, one element is the allure of mystery.
Sure, okay.
When you're not constantly available, when you have your own life, your own pursuits, it creates a sense of intrigue.
Okay.
It leaves the other person wanting to know more.
Okay.
To figure you out.
Yeah.
So it's not about playing hard to get, it's about actually having a life to get back to.
Exactly. Think about it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you be more drawn to someone who has their own passions, their own interests, their own sense of self?
Right.
Someone who isn't looking to you to fill a void in their life.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a certain magnetism to someone who's comfortable in their own skin.
Right.
Doesn't need constant reassurance or validation. It's almost like their independence makes them more desirable.
Precisely. And, this ties back to what we were talking about earlier with self-respect.
Right.
When you value yourself, when you set boundaries, you prioritize your own needs.
Yeah.
It signals a level of confidence and self-assuredness that is incredibly attractive.
So it's not about being aloof or playing games or anything. It's about genuinely honoring your own needs and creating a life that you love.
Right.
And that makes you more magnetic.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's not about trying to manipulate anyone or force attraction.
Right.
It's about becoming the most authentic and fulfilled version of yourself.
Okay.
And that authenticity is what truly draws people in.
This is making me rethink everything I thought I knew about attraction. It's not about chasing someone or trying to win them over.
Right.
It's about cultivating your own inner strength and letting your true self shine through.
Exactly. And the excerpt also makes this other fascinating point.
Okay, what's that?
It suggests that distance can actually prevent the erosion of respect that can happen when you're too close.
Okay, explain that one to me. How does distance preserve respect?
Well, when you're constantly in each other's space, it's easy to start taking each other for granted.
Right.
The novelty wears off, the little quirks that you found endearing,
Right.
Become annoyances.
Yeah.
You start to lose sight of those qualities that initially drew you to each other.
It's like that saying, familiarity breeds contempt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you maintain a bit of distance, you have the opportunity to miss each other,
Okay.
to appreciate those qualities anew.
Okay.
It allows you to see each other with fresh eyes and kind of rekindle that sense of admiration and respect.
So it's not about creating a wall between you.
Right.
It's about stepping back every now and then to gain perspective and appreciation.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot,
Yeah.
between closeness and independence, that delicate balance that allows both individuals to thrive while also nurturing the connection between them.
This whole Stoic art of distance has been a real eye-opener for me. It's challenged so many of my preconceived notions about relationships and opened up a whole new way of thinking about connection.
It's a powerful concept.
Yeah.
And one that has the potential to, really transform our relationships for the better. It's about recognizing that true intimacy isn't about merging into one being.
Right.
It's about two individuals coming together with a deep respect for each other's individuality.
And sometimes the best way to foster that respect is to create a little space for each person to breathe,
Right.
to grow, and to become the best version of themselves.
Beautifully said. It's in that space, in that willingness to step back, that true connection can really flourish.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from, the philosophical underpinnings of this Stoic art of distance to the practical ways that we can integrate it into our lives.
Right.
What's the one most important takeaway you hope listeners will walk away with?
I think the key takeaway here is that distance isn't the enemy of intimacy.
Okay.
In fact, it can be a really powerful tool for creating stronger, healthier, more fulfilling relationships. It's about shifting our mindset from that, I need you to complete me,
Right.
to I choose to share my life with you.
And that shift, that recognition of our own wholeness is what allows us to connect with other people from a place of strength, authenticity, and love.
Beautifully put.
To everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and maybe inspired you to explore this concept of Stoic distance in your own life. Remember, it's all about finding what works for you and your relationships.
Right.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach. Experiment, communicate your needs clearly and respectfully, and most importantly, trust your instincts.
And as always, we would love to hear your thoughts and insights. Share your experiences with us on social media. Let's keep this conversation going.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep diving deep into this fascinating world of ideas.
And remember, a little Stoic distance just might be the key to unlocking a whole new level of depth and connection in your relationships.